You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. Be sure to smash that like button. Before Super Bowl 56, Andrew Whitworth said it's very likely going to be his last game. What else sort of do you have to prove if you're Andrew Whitworth? You played more than a decade in the NFL. This is his second now Super Bowl appearance, and my goodness, he's done just about everything that you can imagine now. He's capped it off with that Super Bowl championship, and we just await what is very likely the inevitability of Whitworth announcing his retirement. And boy, he punctuated a career that has seen success at every level. We all know that he won state championships at West Monroe. He was a member of the national championship team of 2003 and now is a Super Bowl champion as well. Whitworth is one of 16 former LSU players who have won both a national championship and a Super Bowl. And the list is decorated when you look at the likes of Joseph Adai and Michael Clayton, Matt Flynn, of course, Randall Gay with the New Orleans Saints, the late, great Marquise Hill, JoJo LaFell, Stephen Ridley, Corey Webster, many of the names that you know and recognize. But Whitworth has joined that group. And the question has been asked quite a bit here in the past couple of days as to whether or not Andrew Whitworth is a Hall of Famer. So I wanted to take a stab at that because I think for many of us, it might feel cut and dried, but I can remember several years ago, I had this conversation about Jari Evans. And I remember thinking, well, of course Jari Evans is going to be a Hall of Famer. And I think it was Mike Triplett. I'm talking, this is 10 years ago. This has been a while. But I think it was Mike Triplett who said, I'd caution you on the no-doubter there when you look at some of the offensive linemen who you thought might be Hall of Famers that have either had to wait or not gotten in. So I've always treaded a little more carefully when it comes to offensive line. And the tricky part about offensive linemen is that there's nothing to quantify their career. It's literally the only position on the field where you can't quantify anything. You can quantify quarterbacks and receivers and tight ends and defensive linemen with tackles and ends and linebackers and safeties. You can quantify all of it except the offensive line. So for me, I've always looked at the offensive line, and when I think about greatness on the offensive line, I generally look at two things because I look for validation. If you can't get it in the numbers, in the statistics, like we were talking about Matt Stafford. And Matthew Stafford is now 12th all-time in career passing yards. He's going to pass John Elway next year. So you can quantify where his career ranks in that respect. You can't do it with offensive linemen. So I look at 2 points of validation. Number one, look at your contracts. If teams are paying you gobs of money on the offensive line, you're good. They know you're good. It's one. And two is all pro selections. Not Pro Bowl, because as we know, Pro Bowl, as the years have gone on, fewer guys want to play in the Pro Bowl, and making the Pro Bowl just isn't any longer what it once was. So all pro selections, when you are literally the best, because they only pick one at each position. And when you were or obviously if it's tackles, there's two, but you understand what I mean. It's not first team, second team, third. If you're talking about like a first team All-Pro, you are the best in the NFL at that position. So that's always carried a ton of weight. And so I've looked at those. And so when I look at Whitworth's accomplishments, you go through it and you go, man, this guy played more than a decade in the NFL. He played in 239 career games, started 235 of his 239 career games. Incredible longevity. The oldest player in the NFL this year to make the Super Bowl. Obviously, Tom Brady retired before the Super Bowl, so when he played, he was the oldest player in the NFL. Only offensive lineman at 40 to play in and win a Super Bowl. In his career in the NFL, He was the NFL's Offensive Lineman of the Year in 2018. It's a big validating point right there. We know that this year he won the Walter Payton NFL Man of the Year. He's won a Super Bowl now. He made 4 Pro Bowls, and he was 2-time first-team All-Pro, and he was a 1-time second-team All-Pro. And you may look at that and go, no doubter, start engraving the bust now. And I'm going to tell you that you probably have to pump the brakes a little bit on that. Now, I'm going to get to my point because ultimately I do think Whitworth is going to be a Hall of Famer. I'll get to why in a second, but just for comparison's sake, okay? Andrew Whitworth, if you look at some of the best offensive tackles, right, in NFL history that have made the Hall of Fame, remember, Whitworth, 4 Pro Bowls, 2 All-Pro. 4 Pro Bowls, 2 All-Pro. Larry Allen, 11 Pro Bowls, 7-time All-Pro. Hall of Famer. Walter Jones, 9 Pro Bowls, 6 times All-Pro. Anthony Munoz, maybe the greatest offensive tackle ever. 11 Pro Bowls, 11 times All-Pro. 11 times All-Pro. Orlando Pace, 7 Pro Bowl selections, 5 times All-Pro, was a member of the 2000s All-Decade team. Jonathan Ogden, 11 Pro Bowls, 6 times All-Pro. So when you look at it, you're looking at guys that the minimum of those I just mentioned was a 5-time All-Pro in Orlando Pace. Orlando Pace was a 5-time All-Pro. Whitworth was 2. So when you look at the guys considered the greatest ever at that position, his resume falls short of that. That doesn't mean he's not a Hall of Famer. In the same sense that if you're a baseball player, you may not be Babe Ruth, but you can still be a Hall of Famer. If it was literally only reserved for Anthony Munoz, then there would be no other offensive lineman in the Hall of Fame. But I'll point out a guy like Alan Faneca. Alan Faneca was a 6-time first-team All-Pro, 2-time second-team All-Pro, 9-time Pro Bowl selection, 2000 NFL All-Decades team. I mean, he had the gamut, and Faneca had to wait to get into the Hall of Fame. I mean, his Hall of Fame, enshrinement, I mean, it took him tries to get in. I mean, we talked about it so much here with Kevin Mawai as well. Kevin Mawai is similar. He's a guy who had all of the accolades. Mawai is a guy who in his career was named 7 times first-team All-Pro, 8-time Pro Bowler, 2000s All-Decade team. I mean, all those things. And Mawai had to wait his turn as well. Wasn't a no-doubt first ballot Hall of Famer. 7-time All-Pro. Whitworth 2. So there's a lot there that falls short of some of the all-time greats. Even guys who like Mawai and Faneca had to wait their turn. But we did talk about this as well in the NFL. So often, it's less about statistics and it's more about reputation. And I think that what is going to ultimately get Andrew Whitworth enshrined, I do think it's going to happen. I don't think he'll be a first ballot. I don't think it's going to be easy for him. But in the same way that the late, great Sam Mills was just elected, despite the fact that when you run through a lot of his career statistically, it doesn't match up to some of the all-time great linebackers. But I think the fact that Whitworth just did what he did, the starting left tackle on the Super Bowl champions at age 40, and that became such a big storyline. I mean, when you looked at the stage on the field at Super Bowl 56, it is Aaron Donald, it is Matt Stafford, it is Cooper Kupp, and it was Andrew Whitworth. Very clearly defining him as one of the key players on that team. The fact that a 40-year-old left tackle was there, I think that's massive for him, and it happened in the same week that he won the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. So you had this emotional speech that he gave that captivated everybody. 4 days later, he wins the Super Bowl. He's on the stage there holding up the trophy. There's the great picture, so many great pictures actually, but there's the really phenomenal picture of him on the field with his wife kind of hugging his back, and their kids are all sitting there in the confetti. As confetti's falling at SoFi Stadium. I mean, that's one of those pictures that's going to be an indelible image for Whitworth and for the Whitworths and really of this Super Bowl championship. I think those moments, right, those singular moments surrounding this game, which made everyone aware of him and his great career, I think that is ultimately what's going to push him into the Hall of Fame. Remember, you still have human beings that are voting. Human beings that can be tugged emotionally. And I think that happened with Whitworth this past week. And I do think he is going to be a Pro Football Hall of Famer. I do not think it's going to be easy. I do not think he will be a first ballot Hall of Famer. But I do think in time, Andrew Whitworth will get into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And what a way to punctuate what has been an absolutely outstanding career. Congrats to him on the Super Bowl. Congrats to him on the Walter Payton Man of the Year. And what I will say preemptively, but I do think will happen one day, will be a Pro Football Hall of Fame election for Andrew Whitworth. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.